It started the way these things often do, not with fireworks, but with the quiet hum of routine. When you're married for nearly a decade, you get used to the muted rhythm of things. Conversations become shorthand, touches lose their heat, and love morphs into something more like loyalty than passion. At least, that's how I saw it. My name's Evan Malone, 38. Husband, homeowner, father to a basset hound named Grover. Life was simple, good even. I managed a small auto repair shop on the south side of town. Nothing flashy, but it paid the bills and kept my hands busy. My wife, Emily, worked as a substitute teacher and handled most of our finances, bills, groceries, even the Christmas cards. She liked being in control of things like that. I liked not having to worry about it. But earlier this year, Emily brought up the idea of a home renovation loan. Said the kitchen was outdated and the master bath needed a gut job. I'd been resisting the idea. We didn't need more debt, but she had a way of presenting things like they were already halfway done. It'll add value to the house, she said one morning, over coffee, eyes bright with the kind of excitement I hadn't seen from her in a while. We can finally knock out that wall between the kitchen and the den. I should have said no. Instead, I nodded. Fine, let's look into it. The next week, she set up an appointment at Blue Ridge Federal, a mid-sized local bank she'd used before. I was busy at the shop, so she said she'd go in first, get the paperwork started, and I could swing by later to sign. The meeting was on a Thursday. Cold wind. Early spring. I remember the day clearly because it's the first time I felt something wasn't quite right. She dressed like she was heading to a wedding. Heels, that coral dress she usually reserved for anniversaries, hair curled. I asked her if she had plans after. She smiled in that half-distracted way. No, just want to look nice for the meeting. First impressions, right? Sure, I said, but I watched her leave with a funny feeling crawling under my ribs. I arrived at the bank an hour later, covered in grease from a transmission job. The lobby smelled like paper and lemon-scented floor wax. A guy behind the counter pointed me to an office in the back where Emily was sitting with a man in a charcoal suit and a too-white smile. His name was Brandon Delaney. Brandon was tall, 30-something, with that sun-kissed, gym-polished look. The kind of guy who used words like equity leverage while maintaining eye contact a second too long. He stood to shake my hand, his grip just a little tighter than it needed to be. Emily beamed at him like they were already friends. We were just finishing up, she said, sliding a paper toward me. Just need your signature here, and we're good to go. Brandon leaned over, his arm brushing Emily's as he pointed. It's a competitive rate, he said, and your wife's done a great job gathering all the paperwork. Very organized. Yeah, I muttered, signing without looking. She's good at that. When I glanced up, they were smiling at each other, longer than necessary. Over the next few weeks, the process moved fast. The loan was approved, and a contractor came by to walk through the house with Emily. I tried to stay out of it. She had ideas. Pinterest boards. Paint swatches. She lived for that kind of thing. But something was off. She was lighter, airier. She started playing music while she cooked again. She began wearing makeup around the house. Her phone, which used to live on the kitchen counter, now traveled with her everywhere. She laughed more. At first, I thought maybe the idea of the renovation had just re-energized her, gave her something to look forward to. But soon, I started noticing the small gaps. A receipt from a cafe she hadn't mentioned. A perfume I hadn't smelled before. A voicemail she erased the moment I walked in the room. One night, I picked up her phone to check the weather, and she snatched it from my hand so fast it made my heart sink. It's just private stuff, she said, too quickly. Girl things. It wasn't girl things. I knew it. You don't spend 10 years with someone and miss the shift. The calls to the bank became frequent. Too frequent. She'd go into the bedroom to take them, close the door. Always Brandon. At first, I told myself he was just being helpful. Customer service. But then I overheard one call through the thin hallway wall. She was laughing, her voice soft and syrupy in a way I hadn't heard in a long time. Don't tease me, she whispered, giggling. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I called the bank pretending to ask about our loan terms. The receptionist told me Brandon was out on lunch, but he'd been meeting with Emily earlier. I thanked her and hung up. My hands were trembling. It wasn't just lunch. I knew it. That afternoon, I drove past the bank and parked a block away. I sat in my truck for over an hour, staring at the glass doors like they might spit out the truth if I waited long enough. Eventually, I saw them, Brandon and Emily. He opened the passenger door of a sleek, silver Lexus for her. She laughed again, brushing his shoulder with the back of her hand as she climbed in. I followed them. They drove 10 minutes out of town to a hotel I'd seen 100 times but never noticed. Shoreline Inn. A forgettable little place with burgundy awnings and a sign that flickered like it hadn't been updated in years. They didn't go inside right away. They sat in the car for a while, talking. Then he leaned over and kissed her. And she kissed him back. Not hesitant. Not guilty. Like it was the most natural thing in the world. Something inside me broke, quiet and sudden, like the sound of fabric tearing. I didn't confront her that night. I didn't rage or demand answers. I came home, made dinner, and fed Grover. She arrived an hour later, cheeks flushed, eyes bright. Long meeting, she said. We're going to need to change the backsplash plans. I nodded, watching her set her purse down like nothing had happened. Sounds good, I said. Whatever you think works best. That night, I lay in bed beside her, staring at the ceiling fan while she slept soundly. Her breaths were soft, rhythmic, almost childlike. But I knew what I saw. And I knew that now, things were moving towards something I couldn't stop. Something inevitable. 3 days passed, and I said nothing. There's a strange clarity that comes with knowing a truth you haven't yet spoken aloud. Like holding a lit match behind your back. No one sees it, but you feel the heat. I went through my routines with a quiet, numb precision. Wake up. Feed Grover. Open the shop. Come home. Pretend. Emily was floating. She had this new energy, like someone secretly in love with themselves. She hummed while she folded laundry, added rosemary to the roast chicken, and scrolled through her phone with the soft smile of someone enjoying a private joke. I told myself I'd wait, that I'd gather more. I needed certainty, needed the full picture before I burned the house down. So I started watching. There's nothing noble about spying on your wife. You feel like a snake in your own home, slipping through the underbrush of her life, reading receipts, checking gas mileage, searching for hair that wasn't yours on the passenger seat of her car. But once suspicion takes root, it feeds on everything. That weekend, I found the file folder. She kept it in her office drawer, the one she always locked when we had guests. I jimmied it open with a flathead screwdriver while she was out buying light fixtures. Inside were the loan documents, a few property appraisals, and a glossy bank folder from Blue Ridge Federal. Brandon Delaney's business card was clipped to the top sheet. Beneath it, a sticky note. Let's revisit those numbers. B. My blood turned to slush. I flipped through the rest. Something wasn't right. The original loan amount we agreed on was listed, but the final figure had ballooned. An extra $20,000. And it wasn't earmarked for kitchen remodels or bathroom upgrades. It was labeled debt consolidation and personal expenses. I never had debt. Emily's credit card was always paid off, and I certainly hadn't asked for extra. The co-signature line held both our names. I never signed it. There was a copy of my signature, yes, but it was older, photocopied from an earlier document. I recognized it immediately. Slanted E, a loop I hadn't used since college. I leaned back, stunned. She forged my name, and Brandon let it through. I felt my hands begin to shake, but not from rage, yet. It was something deeper, a sense of unraveling. This wasn't just an affair anymore. This was something darker, something built. They were planning something. Together. I stuffed the papers back, careful to place them exactly how I found them. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying every interaction between Emily and me over the last 2 years, trying to pinpoint when she started drifting, when the switch flipped, and when she decided I was better used than loved. Monday morning, I left the house early. Told her I had a supplier run out of town. Instead, I parked 2 blocks from the bank and waited. Blue Ridge Federal opened at 8:30. At 8:43, she arrived, again in heels, again in that coral dress. I watched her step inside with a spring in her step and a manila envelope tucked under one arm. She didn't look around. She didn't hesitate. I gave her 20 minutes. Then I walked in. The receptionist gave me a polite smile. Good morning, sir. Can I help you? Yes, I said. I'm looking for Brandon Delaney. Oh, she blinked. He's with a client right now, but I'll wait. She shifted uncomfortably, but nodded. Please have a seat. I didn't. I stood at the far end of the lobby, arms crossed, staring at the door labeled Loan Services. I watched the shadow of movement under the frosted glass, the passing silhouette of heels, the occasional rustle of papers. My chest throbbed like a war drum. Then the door opened. Brandon stepped out first, confident as ever, tailored suit crisp, phone in hand. He didn't see me at first. Emily followed him a beat later, laughing, her hand grazing his shoulder. He turned to say something, then noticed me. His smile faded. "Evan," Emily said quickly. "What are you?" I stepped forward slowly. "Just thought I'd stop by. Didn't know you were both working this weekend, too." Brandon cleared his throat. "We were finalizing some documents." "Oh, I'm sure," I said flatly. The receptionist stood up. "Sir, maybe we should." "I'm not here to make a scene," I said without turning. "Just checking on my finances. Thought I'd meet the man who approved a loan I didn't actually sign." Emily's face drained of color. Brandon stepped forward. "Evan, let's not." "Save it," I said. My voice was quiet, even. "I've got everything I need now." Emily opened her mouth, but I was already walking out. Back in my truck, I sat there for a long time, gripping the steering wheel like it might fly out of my hands. The betrayal wasn't just emotional anymore. It was calculated, coordinated, legal. They'd lied to my face, falsified documents. And the worst part? She did it without a flicker of guilt, as if it were just another project. Another kitchen backsplash decision. That night, she didn't mention the bank. She made lemon pasta and poured 2 glasses of wine like nothing had happened. I watched her move around the kitchen, graceful, practiced, untouchable. I tried to remember the last time she'd touched me without needing something. I couldn't. When she finally sat down across from me, swirling her glass like it was ritual, I leaned in slightly. "Do you love him?" She froze. "Evan, it's a simple question." Her eyes darted across the room, searching for an escape. "It's not like that." "Then what's it like? Is it about the money? The attention? What did I stop giving you that he started?" She looked down, quiet for a moment. "I don't know. You forged my name, Emily." Her head snapped up. "I saw the paperwork. The extra loan. The new terms. You forged my name, and he signed off on it." There was a flicker then. Fear, maybe. Or shame. "It wasn't supposed to be like this," she whispered. It got complicated." "Complicated," I said, standing. "You're sleeping with him and dragging me into a felony." "I'm not," she started, then stopped. She didn't finish the sentence. I walked out, drove aimlessly until the sun dipped below the tree line, the sky turning a bruised violet. I pulled over at an overlook near Westbury Lake, one of those quiet spots where the air tastes like wet pine and the earth smells ancient. I sat on a bench and stared at the water, wondering how long I'd been asleep in my own life. I'd built everything with my hands, my shop, my home, this marriage. I thought effort was enough. I thought showing up counted. But she'd been slipping away one stolen signature at a time. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a message. "Brandon Delaney, we need to talk. Alone. Please." I stared at the screen, the light from it casting a faint glow on my jeans. Then another came through. "Emily, he wasn't supposed to tell you. Please don't do anything until we talk." I didn't reply, but I knew I would meet him. And I knew that whatever came next would change everything. I met him in the alley behind Blue Ridge Federal. He texted me an address and a time, 7:30 p.m., and said he'd come alone, like it was some kind of covert operation. I didn't respond. I just showed up. There was a faint drizzle in the air, the kind that clings to your skin and makes everything feel colder than it is. The alley stretched narrow between the bank and a vacant dry cleaners, lit only by a flickering security light mounted high on the brick wall. Brandon stood there with his hands in his pockets, his suit jacket draped over one arm. His usual swagger was dulled, replaced with something hesitant, maybe even nervous. I liked that. I wanted him nervous. "You came," he said, voice low. I said nothing. He shifted from foot to foot. "Look, I'm not here to argue. I know this is messed up. I didn't plan for it to go this far." I stared at him, my arms crossed. "You slept with my wife. You falsified a loan in my name. And you're standing in front of me asking for what, mercy?" He grimaced. "I didn't forge anything. Emily brought the documents in already signed. I didn't know." "Don't." I cut him off. "Don't insult me." He looked down. "Okay, you're right. I knew." I waited. He exhaled, slow and long. "She told me it would be temporary. That she needed the extra cash to untangle things. Said she couldn't leave you cleanly without it." I narrowed my eyes. "Untangle. She told me you'd been distant. Controlling. That you didn't give her access to the accounts. that she had no way out unless she. I stepped forward, voice sharp. That's a lie. I figured that out, he muttered. Eventually, there was silence between us. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. A car rolled past the intersection. He looked at me then, really looked. I didn't mean to fall for her. At first, it was just flirting. Harmless lunches. Then she started opening up. Said she felt invisible. I shook my head. She wasn't invisible. I was just trusting. Brandon leaned against the wall, running a hand through his hair. I think she was scared of starting over, but also scared of staying. Then she should have had the decency to leave. Not conspire. Not steal. I know. I watched him carefully. He looked exhausted. Not guilty. Not sad. Just drained. The kind of tired you get when a fantasy begins to rot. She told me she was going to leave you, he added. I blinked slowly. When? He hesitated. I pressed. When? He looked away. Last year. October. I laughed bitterly. That's rich. You two have been planning this for nearly a year? She backed out. Said you'd crumble. That she couldn't do that to you. I felt something sour rise in my chest. Not heartbreak. Not betrayal. Something harder. Heavier. Like shame for ever believing any of it had been real. Was any of it real? I asked quietly. Brandon looked up, caught off guard by the question. With her? I thought so. Until I found out she was still sleeping with you. That made me flinch. Not because it was true, but because it wasn't. Not for months. She hasn't touched me in almost half a year, I said. He blinked, startled. She told me. Don't care what she told you. We stood in silence again. Then Brandon reached into his pocket and pulled out a small flash drive. Here. I looked at it, hesitant. What is it? Emails. Voicemails. Transcripts. Everything. I kept it in case she turned on me. I wasn't sure who I was dealing with anymore. I took the drive. He stepped back. I'm done, Evan. I'm out. You want to press charges? Fine. I'll cooperate. Just don't let her keep using people. Not again. With that, he turned and walked into the rain, his footsteps fading into the night. I stayed there a while, staring at the drive in my palm. It felt heavier than it should have, like it held not just evidence, but weight. Truth. Lies. All of it. At home, Emily was in the living room, flipping through a renovation magazine. She looked up when I walked in. Hey, she said. Everything okay? I nodded, too numb to answer. I ordered Thai. Your favorite. I looked at her, really looked. She was barefoot, hair tied back, a soft sweater draped over her shoulders. She looked like the woman I married. And yet, something inside me recoiled. I'm tired, I said. Think I'll sleep early. She watched me for a moment, then nodded. Okay. That night, I stayed in the guest room. Not that she questioned it. Lately, I could have slept in the shed and she wouldn't have noticed. After she went to bed, I plugged in the flash drive. The files were labeled clearly. Voicemail 1, email 3, transcript_June, and so on. Hundreds of them. The first audio clip opened with her voice, soft and sultry. Hey babe, I can't stop thinking about last night. I know I shouldn't be saying this, but I needed it. You. I feel alive again. Just don't make me choose. Not yet. My stomach twisted. Email after email, voicemail after voicemail. All carefully archived. She wasn't just having an affair. She was planning a new life. Vacation searches, apartment listings, business ventures. There was even a spreadsheet with projected finances, Brandon's salary, my income, childless tax estimates. All laid out like she was applying for a mortgage, not rearranging a marriage. And at the bottom of one email chain, Emily, if he finds out before I'm ready, it's over. He'll ruin us both. Just wait. Let me handle him. That was dated 6 days ago. 6 days. She still thought I was in the dark. I closed the files, sat back, and stared at the ceiling. My hands were cold, my breath shallow. I wanted to scream, to break something, but all I could do was sit there, quietly absorbing the reality that my marriage had been hollow for far longer than I'd realized. She didn't just lie. She prepared for it. She orchestrated it. The next morning, I played the role. I got up early, made coffee, fed Grover, even packed her a lunch. She smiled and kissed my cheek like it was any other Tuesday. You're sweet, she said. I smiled back. She left, and I waited 10 minutes before grabbing my keys. I drove to the address listed in the email, for 19 Sycamore Avenue, a rental unit. Her just-in-case plan. She'd listed it as an alternate residence on her application with the bank. When I arrived, the building manager was just leaving. A wiry man with a clipboard. "Can I help you?" he asked. "I'm here about the Sycamore lease," I said casually. He frowned. "Already signed. Nice lady. Moves in next week." My throat tightened. "Do you know if she paid the deposit already?" I asked. "Paid in full," he said. 3-month advance. Must be nice to have that kind of scratch." I nodded and thanked him. Back in the truck, I sat with my head against the steering wheel. She was leaving. Not maybe. Not eventually. It was already happening. And she hadn't told me. That night, I confronted her. Or at least, I thought I would. But when I walked through the door, she was standing by the dining table, her expression unreadable. "I need to talk to you," she said. I nodded. "Me too." She looked down at something in her hands. "Papers. I filed for divorce this morning," she said quietly. It felt like a gunshot, clean and sudden. "I didn't tell you sooner because I needed to be sure. And now I am." I stared at her. She laid the papers on the table. "There's something else you should know," she added. I waited. "I'm pregnant." The world tilted. Pregnant. The word felt like a brick to the chest. I stared at her across the dining table, that stack of divorce papers sitting between us like a loaded gun. Her eyes didn't flinch. No tears. No trembling hands. She had rehearsed this moment, practiced it in her mind 100 times. "I found out last week," she said. "I wasn't going to tell you until the paperwork was filed. I thought it would complicate things." I was numb. Not angry, not yet. Just adrift. My ears were ringing. The sound of her voice dulled like I was underwater. I finally managed to speak. "Is it mine?" There it was. The question neither of us wanted to name out loud. But it had to be asked. She paused, and in that pause, I saw the truth. "No," she said softly. It landed like thunder, even though I already knew. She added quickly, "I didn't plan this. I wasn't trying to trap anyone or—" "You forged my signature, Emily." She winced. I was desperate. "For what? A new kitchen? A man in a suit who calls you babe on voicemail?" Her face darkened. "Don't reduce me like that." I stepped closer, slowly. "You reduced me. For over a year, you smiled across this table while planning your exit. You looked me in the eye while building a new life behind my back. I didn't want to hurt you. Too late." Her jaw clenched. "You weren't here, Evan. Not really. You were always tired. Always distracted. I felt like a roommate." "So you solved it by becoming someone else's?" Her mouth opened, but no words came. For a moment, the house was silent. Grover, asleep on the couch, stirred. Outside, the wind moved the bare branches like bony fingers scratching the windows. A storm was building. You could feel it in your skin. "I gave you everything I could," I said, quieter now. "Maybe I wasn't perfect, but I was loyal. I never once thought about leaving." She folded her arms. "That doesn't mean I was happy." I nodded once. "Then you should have told me. Before all this." I couldn't. Why? Because I didn't know if I was brave enough. I almost laughed. Brave enough to destroy a marriage, but not to ask for help. Brave enough to cheat, but not to speak. She walked to the counter, opened a drawer, and pulled out a manila envelope. Inside was a copy of the loan paperwork, the same one I'd seen in her office. She handed it to me, like it was an offering. "I'm not fighting you," she said. "Take the house. I'll leave." I stared at the papers. "What's the catch?" I asked. "There's no catch. You've always had a catch." She looked tired now. "You think I'm some kind of villain, Evan. Like this was all calculated. Wasn't it?" She shook her head. "It started small. A lunch meeting. A compliment. Then it snowballed. I kept telling myself I'd stop." "But you didn't." "No," she whispered. "I didn't." I turned to walk away, but her voice stopped me. "Brandon's gone." I paused. "He left town. Said he didn't want to raise a child in this mess." "Figures. I'm not asking for sympathy." "Good," I said. "Because you're not getting any." She stood still, hands clasped over her stomach. "I'm not expecting child support. Or visitation. Nothing. I'll handle it." "That's the first adult decision you've made in months." I meant it to sting. And it did. She lowered her eyes. "You deserve better than this ending." "There was never going to be a good ending, Emily. Not after what you did." I left the room, walked past the photographs in the hallway. Our wedding, a trip to Asheville, her smiling on the deck in late summer. I paused at one in particular. Us at the lake, arms around each other, drinks in hand. The smiles looked real then. Maybe they were. Maybe, in some alternate version of our life, This never happened. But that wasn't this story. She moved out 3 days later. Quietly. No drama. No drawn-out fights or sobbing goodbyes. Just a series of boxes loaded into a friend's SUV and a brief nod at the doorway. "I'll forward any mail," she said. I didn't answer. When the car pulled away, I sat on the front steps with Grover, watching the taillights disappear down the hill. It started raining again, soft at first, then heavier. I let it soak through my clothes. Inside, the house felt cavernous. Not because it was empty, but because it was mine again. Fully mine. Every photo she left behind, I boxed up and shoved into the attic. I stripped the bed, repainted the bedroom, tore out the backsplash she wanted so badly. I undid her, one memory at a time. The bank reached out twice. I told them they'd approved a forged signature. I had documentation, evidence, and a lawyer ready. They settled fast. The extra loan was voided. The account closed. Brandon's name, scrubbed from the system. He never came back. As for Emily, she called once. 6 weeks later. "I'm due in August," she said quietly. "Just thought you should know." I said nothing. "I'm keeping the name Malone," she added. "For now." "I can't stop you," I replied. Then I hung up. That was the last time we spoke. A year later, I stood in the middle of my shop, staring at a blueprint for the office renovation I'd put off for far too long. The building smelled of oil and fresh coffee. The early spring sun filtered through the skylight, warming the concrete floor. I'd hired someone new, a young woman named Talia with a sharp mind and a no-nonsense attitude. She was already streamlining my books and didn't flinch when I told her I liked things done a certain way. That morning, she brought in donuts. Said it was a Friday thing. "You always this quiet?" she asked, sipping her coffee. "Only before 9 a.m. She smiled, not pressing. There was peace in the silence. I liked that about her. Later that day, I pulled out the old voicemail from Emily. The first one Brandon had saved. I hadn't listened to it in months, but I kept it as a reminder. I played it once more, her voice soft, laced with the kind of affection that seemed impossible now. Then I deleted it, not out of anger, but out of closure. That night, I poured myself a drink, sat on the porch, and watched the sky shift from blue to gold to soft purple. Grover laid his head on my feet. Somewhere beyond the horizon, Emily was probably rocking a baby to sleep. Somewhere in a different life, we were still married, still trying. But in this one, I was alone. And I was okay. Not happy yet. Not healed. But whole.